All right, welcome back to the Big Skinny. We're still running and gunning here with our top 12 stock picks. That's right. I don't get out of this. My buddies and friends are sharing theirs. I've got to share mine. And I am really excited to welcome our final guest of the evening, the man who is multifaceted, multi-talented, a great money manager, a great jiu-jitsu guy from what I've seen the pictures of, Mike Lee of Mike Lee Strategy. Welcome to the show again, my friend.
Lou, what's up, buddy? How we doing? Good?
Good. How you been, my friend? How's 2026 treating you already? The Santa Claus rally didn't really show up and other people are pissed off about it. I say, who cares? It was 7 days of trading. Does it matter?
Look, these two stock picks that I have for today, and a lot of things are going on, rely so much on liquidity. And so we were just absolutely rocking and rolling into October. And then it feels like the wheels came off of a lot of popular trades. Yep. And what that had to do, like before I was theorizing, now I'm totally and completely convinced of it, was this government shutdown, and the Treasury General Account went from 500 billion to 1.1 trillion from the beginning of September to kind of the middle of November and the height of that government shutdown. Well, like think about if the Fed expanded their balance sheets by $600 billion in a 6-week period, what that would do to liquidity. Well, now it just went in reverse, and we're still only down to about 800 billion. And all of these names rely on that excess liquidity. And like, well, why does that matter? And that's because everybody that buys these stocks is levered to the you-know-what. And when I have $100 million money line at the end of the day, if I own $150 million stocks, I need to go find an additional $50 million worth of repo or some form of leverage. Well, if the banks don't have it because it's sitting in the Treasury's checking account, you got to start selling. And once it starts selling, the algorithms take over. And once the algorithms take over, all the experts about the AI bubble just emerge from every which direction, and all the debt concerns and the greatest technology trend in history is already overvalued and done, and yada, yada, yada. So, if we don't have another shutdown, my stock picks are going to work awesome. If we have another shutdown.
Before we get to your stock picks, because I agree with you, right? There was a ton of profits in the markets. You can delever by selling the winners. You're still, people wanted to mail it in for the coast into the end of the year. But I did mention this teasing you are super attuned. Like, I feel like I had a buddy growing back in high school that I could ask him, where did this guy play in high school baseball, a Yankee, and could tell me what that kid loved to eat in high school. You could do the same with politics. Like, where everyone was a page and where they came into the House and went to the Senate. What do you think about a government shutdown? Because obviously that impacts all investments. And because you're so in tune to the political thing, do you think we get another one here coming up?
Look, unless the donors are really going to gripe about it, like, why wouldn't the Democrats do it? Like, these are like radical quasi-terrorists, right? Like, they're out there in the streets protesting Maduro, where like a year ago, Maduro's capture, right? Where like a year ago, they were saying like he's Trump's buddy and he never did enough to do anything. And it's like, look, man, we live in an insane world. And so, that shutdown took a lot of weight out of the GDP for the fourth quarter. All right. And if they could inflict damage on the economy, they're not going to get blamed for it to the degree. And we have this huge problem with Obamacare, which somehow the Affordable Care Act is not affordable. Go figure, right?
Yeah. Subsidies didn't bring down prices. That's amazing. I never would have thought that happened, right? We've never seen that in any other instance. All right. So you think it's a real probability, a likely occurrence?
We'll see. Look, man, like, how the sausage gets made in the Senate is probably grosser than how sausage gets made, right? And
it's offensive to Italians, I'm just going to say that.
So, hopefully they can come to a deal, but like, you can't, like at a certain point, like the Dutch boy only has so many fingers to plug the holes in the dam, right? Yeah. So these subsidies, like, it doesn't work. Like, this is a key opportunity for the Republicans to sit there and say, hey, Obamacare is a disaster. It doesn't work. Here's our plan. And that's the only way they have a chance in the midterms is to address healthcare, because every time healthcare is in the top 3 issues, the Democrats win big. And right now, the issue, it's like number 3. And like, the unfortunate part for Trump is like, when you solve crime, when you solve immigration, people don't worry about those anymore. It's like in the first term, he beat ISIS in like 8 months. And it's not a concern anymore. Yeah, so the concern now is healthcare, and I think the Democrats, it's a political winner for them. I mean, look, we'll see, because all these politicians are like a cat or a dog, like chasing a ball. So we'll see, like, that's the 31st of January, which is an eternity from now in political speaking. So we'll see where that goes. But that's what I would watch out for. And you can just Google TGA general account balance and just check it. And remember that at the beginning of September, we were 500-600 billion. And if that number spikes up to $1 trillion, like, it's going to put pressure on all these tech stocks.
It just pulls cash out of the system, liquidity kills momentum. So, all right, we got your political predictions, and we'd be wise to listen to them because you're always dialed in there. But all right, let's get your stocks. Shutdown or no shutdown? These are two names that you think can outperform in 2026. Mike is going to hold on. Chad thinks you're going to lay down Marvel and CoreWeave, and I got news because I got inside information. Neither of those. What are your two top picks?
Okay, well, just so Chad knows, I still love those. Okay, but like I still love those, and but these two are cheaper with bigger upside, if you can believe it, and they're like safer. So it's like similar return profiles with just as much upside, very limited downside. So Oracle and Broadcom, because they've both gotten smoked, and I think it's because the market just doesn't understand how artificial intelligence works. So for Oracle, okay, when you take a large language model, it's not the business model of ChatGPT is not to charge users $30 a month. It's to have a huge enterprise contract with like Procter & Gamble, where Procter & Gamble, when they're building a marketing campaign and trying to figure out financing, inventory, research and development, can instantaneously search the hundreds of years of data they have. Okay, right now they look through all these historical sales campaigns and like which shelf has worked better for this product and which colors work better with razors versus soap and blah, blah, blah. Like now that's all instantaneous because what these large language models, so your ChatGPT, your Grok, your Anthropic, they are simply search engines. They're like Google on crazy anabolic steroids, and they can come out with some answers and some reasoning on the other side of it. But like what feeds it is data. And right now you can get crazy answers from any of them because they're like reading Reddit and Wikipedia. Yeah. So now companies are going to use it to search their own internal data, have some reasoning come out the other side. And Oracle is the largest database manager in the world. So for Grok or Anthropic or ChatGPT to come in and search your own data, you're going to pay a toll to Oracle. And Oracle is going to host all those LLM searches. And those LLM searches use a tremendous amount of compute. And when I say compute, that's NVIDIA GPUs, that's Marvel GPUs, that's Broadcom GPUs, that's AMD GPUs.
So okay. What's your rebuttal to some people? They would challenge you on Oracle, not anything about the stock having a rip up and then a downturn, but more that they're spending more of their operating cash flow on they're financing things with debt to keep growing, right? So that's the common bear thesis. So how do you respond to that?
I love it. So you either believe in this data center like that so it's token demand. So token is 3/4 of a page of language, nothing to do with cryptocurrency. Okay, the token demand where we are right now. So these LLMs are getting infinitely more complex because every 48 hours, we create and collect as much data as we did from the beginning of the history of time until the end of the year 2003.
So say that again, because I don't think people really understand or appreciate how much data this world generates now.
Okay, so every 48 hours, we create and collect as much data as we did from the beginning of the history of the time until the end of the year 2003.
That's staggering.
In 18 to 24 months, it'll be every 24 hours. Okay, it takes a tremendous amount of data centers to sort through that information. Okay, and the large language model is the infancy of artificial intelligence. Okay, and it's the infancy of token demand, and the token demand for LLMs is moving on an exponential basis. The next step are the era of artificial intelligent agents. So the agents are what's actually going to do something. So you throw a legal document in your Procter & Gamble for one of your products into ChatGPT, it looks through, says, hey, it affects these 5 things, you need to do this, this, and this. An agent is physically going to go out and make those changes. Okay, that's where the real power, and they use exponentially more compute than the large language model.
So most people don't understand where the
why
early
wouldn't
innings
you
of this.
lever to the hill if you saw this growth avalanche coming? And being that Oracle is the largest database manager in the world, okay, keep in mind, I need the data to go into the LLM to feed the agent, right? So they're going to host it, and they're going to charge you an arm and a leg for that data to go from A to B to C. No, and they're going to sell all sorts of other services right in there. They are the best positioned company for artificial intelligence That exists. That's why they're levering up. These are not stupid people. They're not taking on excess debt because Larry Ellison all of a sudden went crazy in like the 70s and 80s. Like it's just utter.
That could be some of it, but it doesn't matter. It'll still work out right. I do want to make note, because you deserve credit where credit is due. And I think when you came on the show the first time, we talked about Palantir, and I still don't get what they do. And you didn't care. You were just like, listen, dude, just buy the stock. It's going higher from here, whether you get it. So you're coming off the heels of an amazing call on Palantir, saying that there's similar upside and opportunity in Oracle that people are misunderstanding. Now let's flip gears to AVGO. Like, I knew AVGO from the smartphone days, RF filters. Now they've evolved into a much bigger, faster growing company. Why do you love them heading into this year?
Okay, because they're going to make the TPUs for Google. Okay, so what is a TPU? It's a tensor processing unit. So a NVIDIA GPU, the latest and the greatest. Okay, they're very hard to get your hands on. It's like a hot IPO allocation to get your hands on that. Okay, so what Google wants to do is they're designing enough so that's a graphics processing unit. A tensor processing unit as a limited use GPU.
So one's more general, the other one's very specialized. It's
for large language models. And so what's happening now with these large tech companies is they used to say, hey, you have these 10 pieces of the pie, ours are these 6 in the middle, and you can use these 3 preferred partners. Okay, now it's got to be an open menu. Google's trying to close that open menu and take all these LLMs. They're going to take Anthropic. They're going to take Meta's Llama. They want to put and ChatGPT. They want to put them all in the Google Cloud. They want to host that compute. And these TPUs, they use less energy, and they're much faster and easier and cheaper for the specific purpose of the large language model. Broadcom's designing these.
Okay.
So how it works?
And then who's the manufacturers? Are they use TSMC?
Taiwan Semi? Yeah, it's Taiwan. Yeah, Taiwan Semi. So all these. So NVIDIA designs their chips in Irvine, builds them in Taiwan, and then does it here. And I'm sorry for carrying on. I think we're running up to time. But like Broadcom, so Oracle, I like it much more at 190 than I did at 350, and I like Broadcom at 340 much more than at 420. Right, and that's like these are the creme de la creme, and they've just gotten hammered because people are stupid.
Hey, there's an investment thesis. They've gotten creamed because people are stupid. That's a benefit from other people's stupidity. Look, I've got a similar thought here. I want to share my 2 picks very quickly. One is in the healthcare biotech space, which, like Kevin, I believe this one could be a natural takeover candidate. They operate in the GLP-1 space. It's because they're superior to some of the drugs that we're seeing right now offered by Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk. I love this company because I think Novo Nordisk has to acquire them. Everyone thinks Novo Nordisk is dramatically undervalued. It's the greatest value play right now in the market. I would tell you that Novo Nordisk is undervalued because it deserves to be cheap, because semaglutide, Ozempic, and Wegovy is an inferior scientific molecule because it only targets one receptor. Eli Lilly's got tirzepatide that targets 2. Viking Therapeutics has got a superior one that actually targets 2 as well as 3, can be done subcutaneous, but also in a pill format. So that's the investment thesis here. Even without an acquisition, they've got clinical data coming up this year that I think propels them into one of the fast movers in this GLP-1 market. Now, the other one, not a very popular pick right now. We're hearing tons about it, and I want to get your opinion before I let you leave on this whole Venezuela oil headlines. I love oil. I work for an oil and gas company, Prairie Operating Company. We're one of the only independent, fast-growing, low-cost operators. Our stock's going to absolutely clobber because of just some balance sheet issues that we're working through. But I think oil is completely hated right now. Some not so smart pundits were saying that Venezuela has so many reserves that oil is going to open up today below $50 a barrel, which is complete insanity. If you believe and would play and trust to play poker with the Hugo Chavez and some similar people like him and believe that they're going to be honest, you're crazy. But that's who reported 300 billion in reserves for Venezuela. The real number is probably a fraction of that. I just love oil. You look at Exxon right now, the large caps, mega caps in the space are hitting all-time highs. Chevron, I think undervalued fast growers and acquirers and aggregators are going to do really well this year on not much of a change in oil prices. A 10% move could really drive a lot of earnings growth and leverage in the space. So those are my 2 picks. I want your thoughts on Venezuela in 30 seconds or less. What do you make of it all?
Yeah, so like reserves don't matter. Like in a decade, they might get to 6 million barrels a day. That was like a PDVSA's goal in 2012. I was very active in those. Look, yep. I think it is a huge positive for the Western world that some of the largest mineral resources are now controlled by a Western country.
Yeah. All right. We're going to wrap with Mike Lee. Mike Lee's strategy, again, made a massive and wonderfully right call in Palantir last year. Let's hope Oracle and AVGO Broadcom work out just as well this year, my friend. We'll come back and check in the next quarter and see who's leading and lagging, and then we'll come up with some communal punishments. We'll figure out who has to pay the dues for losing. So appreciate your time, Mike.
Thank you.